Okay, so I found out with Hacksaw Ridge that I don't really like reviewing historical movies, mostly because I end up reviewing the history itself, and it makes me uncomfortable. But without further ado, I'm going to review a historical movie and the history surrounding it. Hidden Figures, directed by Theodore Melfi, starring Taraji Henson, Octavia Spencer, and Janelle Monáe. Overall, it was okay. It wasn't. I was expecting, since this is a late 2016 entry bleeding over into 2017, that it would be more Oscar baity, but the tone was all wrong for that. It was going for too light of a tone. Like, nobody ever even cussed. They said Negro a couple times, and that was like the closest they came to having any kind of edge to them. But the story itself was pretty good. It was about the true story, allegedly, of three black women who, one, the main character, Taraji Henson's character, she was the smartest one in the computer pool, which, because back then they called people computers. And since she could do some kind of special math in her head without anyone else's help, they gave her a job in Kevin Costner's department, and he's like in charge of NASA. Meanwhile, Octavia Spencer's character, Dorothy, was trying to get a supervisor job, but they wouldn't give it to her because, then they had to pay her more. So she notices that they're bringing in an IBM computer and basically teaches herself how to program it for job security reasons. And that was a little hokey because she taught herself with a real thin book. I've failed to learn things out of thicker books than that. But she apparently was doing better than the people who were installing it, so she got the job. And the third character, Mary, was an engineer, but she didn't qualify for the job of engineer at NASA without special credentials, and the only credentials she could get were at segregated schools. So she had to go through some legal thing. Now those three stories in and of themselves were pretty good. I would have liked more of those. The problem is that they kept focusing on Raji Henson's character's romance with Marshall Ali, which I was very excited when he showed up, but then he didn't really hit it. It's kind of weird to say that he was stale and wooden, but he kind of was for a lot of it. He didn't have as big a role as I'm making it out to be, but for me, it was a major drag every time his character showed up, because it's like, oh my God. Because Catherine, Taraji Henson's character, was a bit of a frumpy nerd, but I mean, she was still attractive, I guess, by 50 standards. So Marshall Ali was trying to court her, and she was awkward, and it didn't seem to matter. It was like they had a predetermined destination, and there was just no click for it. I I have not been in many relationships. I need to know what is said in order to like get that to happen. Movies just expect you to understand that, but I don't. Many of you may, but I don't. So anytime a love story isn't the focus of the story, I'm not going to be able to follow it. I'm not going to buy it in any way. La La Land worked because that was what the story was. And in order to push this romance, they had to cut away from Dorothy and Mary, who like they would just be gone for like 20 minutes at a time. And I was like, oh, there they are. They're back. Okay, good. Go back to people actually accomplishing stuff with their lives. Kevin Costner was in it, playing Catherine's boss. And in the beginning, they told Catherine not to even try to get on his good side because he wasn't going to give it. But he didn't even try. Like, the first conversation he has with her is completely civil, and like he's teaching her stuff. Minor inconsistencies. I guess I'm focusing more on the flaws. What they did well. The main three women, Octavia Spencer, Janelle Monáe, and Taraji Henson, all did fantastic jobs. Kevin Costner was great in it. They had Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory playing a nerd, but not a Sheldon Cooper nerd. Unlike that movie Home, where he was just playing. I just call it the Sheldon Cooper movie because that's basically what he was doing. He was just playing that same dumb character. In this one, he was, more reasonable, more of a relatable character. Kirsten Dunst was in it. She played sort of the villain to Octavia Spencer. She was a supervisor in another wing of computers. She wasn't overtly racist. Nobody in this movie really felt overtly racist. Kevin Costner didn't even feel like he knew racism was out there. He was confused that she couldn't find a place to pee. But Kirsten Dunst was just kind of ignorant. They kept saying that's the way things are because at the time that's the way things were, and that I think is what the movie did a good job of, is just showing the apathy that white people had back then, where they weren't gonna go out of their way to make life better for them because that's just how things are, and it's worked so far. It's worked okay so far, and that's a really dangerous way of thinking. Yeah, so overall, it was a pretty uplifting story. It was pretty funny, which I was not expecting, but they kept it light, and I want to say that that's a little bit to its detriment because it could have been a little bit darker and more edgy. Very little actual racism in the movie. I'm taking it back. I don't think I liked this movie as much as I said in the beginning. It was okay, but not on the positive side of okay. Like if you call it okay, like the 50% line, this is on the negative side, below 50%. Not a great movie. I don't know. I don't know if this has been nominated for any kind of awards consideration, but I don't. I don't see it happening for it. All right, so that's the end of my review. It was an okay movie. It had a lot of consistency problems, but the acting was good, and that was enough. And it had some humor, so you were having fun, though you weren't being given an accurate representation of what it was probably like. I assume, because I feel like this 1961 was a lot more racist than they made it seem. Okay, goodbye.